WXYG The GOAT with Stevie Ray Vaughan there and Stevie Wonder's classic Superstition. That was the pick of Jeff Martin, who was my GOAT Guest DJ today. The GOAT Guest DJ show is on every Saturday from noon until 2. Thanks for joining us. Why in particular did you want to play that one, Jeff?
Well, it's one of those cover tracks by Stevie Ray Vaughan that I thought he did a really nice spin to. Very rhythmic, which is a little bit different for Stevie as opposed to just doing hardcore solos. I thought it paid a nice homage to Stevie Wonder, who was a great rhythm and blues player. People forget about that aspect of his music. Mm-hmm. And it was on one of his few live albums, Live Alive.
Mm-hmm. I think that you had said, we were talking about all the shows that you've been to, and you started when you were young and really dug into it. You got the chance to see Stevie Ray Vaughan a couple times.
I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan about 5 times through his career, but the first time I ever saw him was at a place that no longer exists. It's called the Prom Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was 1984. It was sponsored by another local radio station in Minneapolis, and it was $9.20 to go along with their call sign or their station number. But it was unbelievable. It was in basically a ballroom, and we stood with an arm shot of Stevie and the band. They had just released their first album, Texas Flood, and he spent a lot of time prior to that in England and in Europe touring. So the album took a while to get caught on. And when he came aboard, there was very few people that knew about him, thus playing at a small ballroom. And when we saw him, we knew right away that this was a legend in the making.
Wow. You knew at that moment, you witnessed him and you said, that guy's a little bit bigger than life.
Correct.
Yeah. I think you probably know this, but who gave Stevie Ray Vaughan his first big break? And it probably ties into his time in England.
Well, yeah, it was David Bowie. David Bowie saw him at, I believe it was the Montreux Pop Festival.
Yes.
And Bowie was very impressed, and Bowie actually had him record the lead guitar work on Let's Dance, which was David Bowie's most commercial album. Bowie then wanted Stevie Ray Vaughan to tour with him, and Stevie had accepted. But Stevie's management at the time made the decision that it would actually be detrimental to his career for a variety of reasons. So at the last minute, Stevie stood up David Bowie, more or less, told him he was off the tour, and then focused on his U.S. presence.
Yeah. Well, I think David, in the long run, probably understood Stevie Ray Vaughan needed to be great in the way that he was going to become great.
Certainly.
Yeah. All right. You're pretty darn good. You're a mighty sharp GOAT guest, I'd say. How about Thin Lizzy? One of my favorite bands that doesn't get enough airplay. I love Boys Are Back in Town to a point, but I'm done with it now. Cowboy song also good, but there's so much great Thin Lizzy that doesn't get played.
I agree, and I think this, at least for me growing up, this is one of my favorite live double album sets, which were really big in the 70s. Now, this has the interesting lineup of Brian Robertson on lead guitar, along with Scotty Gorham. A lot of people remember the Gary Moore era, which came and went. But Robertson does a great job. Gary Moore, the legendary Irish blues guitarist who was with Thin Lizzy for several stints, actually was the one who recorded this on the studio version. But Brian Robertson picked it up and did a very nice job. And this is, when you think about it, this is one of the first bands that came up with the dual lead guitar attack. The predecessor to, people say, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and others. So I really like this song because it's a great ballad by Phil Lynott, the legendary bass player, and you get some excellent dual guitar work here by both Scotty Gorham and Brian Robertson.
That was extremely well done, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'm saying this publicly, if I run into some sort of unfortunate accident, I want the GOAT to hire you, okay, to replace me. But I'll be careful.
Well, as my wife says, I can't remember a thing she told me an hour ago, but I remember things from the 70s like they were yesterday.
Welcome aboard. Okay, from the great live album, Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous, it's called Still in Love with You. On the GOAT.
I think I'll fall to pieces. Still in love with you. You know some people out there are saying time has its way of healing. It can dry all the tears from your eyes. Oh, but darling, they don't tell you about this healthy feeling. You know I can't disguise it. After all that we've been through, I try my best, but it's no use. Ooh, I'm gonna keep on loving. Is this the end? Still in love with you. And now that it's all over, woman, that's something I think you should know. And then because my baby, she had a baby by me, she might think it over one more time before she goes. Hold on, baby. If there's anything I could do for you,
And that was Spanish Moon by Little Feat from their live album, Waiting on Columbus.
And what station is this, Jeff?
This is WXYG, The GOAT.
That's right. This is the Goat Guest DJ show. I'm Al. There's Jeff over in the chair for Mic 2. We might flip him around to Mic 1 here for the second hour of the program. We're doing live music, and we're doing Minnesota-connected music. Why the Little Feat?
I always like that song. I think the beat is sensational. I think the subject matter is very racy and very good. And I was a fan of Lowell George. People forget about him. There's a band that Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin called his favorite American band.
I had a chance to interview Greg Allman at one time, and I asked him, who are you into, Greg, that some people might not know? And he, right away, without missing a beat, was like, Lowell George, man, I love that guy.
Fabulous band.
Yeah. And I was able to actually see, I wonder if you were at this show, because we found a couple of common shows. There was the Allman Brothers and Little Feat at a place, an outdoor venue down by the cities in the 1990s.
Missed that one,
You weren't at that one.
unfortunately.
Okay, boy, it was great. And I loved them equally. I've always loved the Allmans, but Little Feat won me over that day.
No, it was Lowell George with the band,
No,
or he had
no,
passed?
he had passed by that time, but everybody else was there. Yeah. Okay, so what do we have coming up next? I think we're going to take a break here, and then what do we have coming up on the other side? I think it's, we're going to go for a Minnesota music set with the Jayhawks.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the Jayhawks aren't a band that we typically would play on the Goat, but they are definitely directly descended from the music that we love.
Exactly. Great Minnesota bands. In fact, they were just here at the Paramount, I believe, 2 years ago on a reunion tour, and I got a chance to see them, and fabulous show.
All right. Stay tuned for that. Goat Guest DJ show in progress with Jeff and Al. And where's my button? There it is right there. This is the Goat.
For the sake
not adjust your receiver. This is WXYG The Goat. That's a great sounding song from the Jayhawks. Waiting for the Sun. I haven't heard that for a while. This is the Goat Guest DJ show. We do this every Saturday from noon until 2. And my guest today is Jeff Martin, who is a local musician and, more than anything, a really passionate music fan. So he wanted to play the Jayhawks because we're playing some music that has a connection to Minnesota. Obviously, with the Jayhawks, that's, they're rock solid in that.
Exactly.
How'd you get turned on to the Jayhawks?
Honestly, I don't recall. I stumbled across that song one day on a radio station. I said it's a really great band. Started checking them out, and again, like I mentioned before, saw them here in town a couple years ago at the Paramount, and was very impressed.
For me, it goes back probably 20 plus years now, and as a Bob Dylan fan and just an Americana Sound fan, they were one of the best bands at that time, and they got a good long run. I hope they come back and have another reunion.
Very much so. I recall that was off 1992's Hollywood Town Hall, which was on Deaf American Idol. And then a couple years later, they released an album called Smile. And interesting enough, it was produced by Bob Ezrin. And you know who Bob has produced in his day.
Lots of people, including Kiss.
Kiss and Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, yeah. Go figure that out.
Interesting connection there.
Here's one that the Goat Kid and I came up with. Every Sunday night we could do the Goat Kid Report, and so we have one coming up on Van Morrison's Tupelo Honey, okay, which was produced by Ted Templeman, who also was the producer of Van Halen. Correct. And he was the one that introduced Sammy Hagar to Eddie Van Halen, so it was Ted Templeman, the common producer of Van Halen, and Van Morrison. That's why.
There's an interesting combo of artists there.
Listen to that one in your van. Here is a song by the Eagles. It's not a typical song by the Eagles. They did some heavier, darker stuff, like, Witchy Woman, you could say. This one's called Take the Devil. So early country-flavored but hard and dark Eagles. Why this one?
Well, of course, there's the Minnesota connection with Bertie Ledden, one of the original founders with Glenn Frey, who was with the band in the early 70s. I like this song because it's atypical of a lot of the Eagles stuff you hear on the radio, although you do play it on this station, and I enjoy that very much. I think it comes from the period that Don Henley refers to as their satanical idol worship period.
I think they were spending some time in the desert, eating some things that grow in the desert.
Organics, of course.
Oh, yeah. Safety first. All right, so Bernie Leadon, the one of the guitarists for the Eagles from Minnesota, his brother Tom, by the way, part of Tom Petty's first band, Mudcrutch. All right, here's the Eagles on the Goat.
Open up your eyes, take the devil from your mind. He's been holding on to you, and you're so hard to find. The wind outside is cold, restless feeling in my soul. Tempting me to get away, but there's no place a man can go. God, will you lead me where I want? Help me not to let my feelings show. No, no.
listening to The GOAT, Albert Rock 540, WXYG.
WXYG The GOAT with Fleetwood Mac to start the hour. Now this gets tangled. The song is called Secondhand News, and that's Lindsey Buckingham's song. I'm Al, and I'm here with Jeff, and this is the GOAT Guest DJ Show. We're entering hour number 2. So that wasn't on Jeff's list that he submitted to be the guest on the program, but we get to talking off the air. We were talking about the Eagles, and a story came up that related the Eagles to Fleetwood Mac, and I'm going to try to tell it now. By the way, hi, Jeff.
Hello, Al.
Right, so we're having a great time. And Jeff's also got some amazing stories. But I found myself in my young life, it was probably about 1981, and I'd gone back to Montana where my parents were living at the time, and I got a job with a station out there that had this, a little FM station that played some of the music that we play on the go. But of course, this was like 1981, so it wasn't so distant. And we played a fair amount of Eagles and Fleetwood Mac. And so the Peters brothers came to Sidney, Montana, this little place 50 miles north of Glendive, and they gave their seminar on the evils of rock music. And it was mostly focused on bands like, let's say, Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, but they had a section about the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac because of songs like Witchy Woman or Take the Devil, which we played right before the top of the hour. And then for Fleetwood Mac, it might be, Rhiannon, which is about a witch, and Gold Dust Woman, and, the chain, spooky Fleetwood Mac stuff. So they went through, the Peters brothers was so compelling that the owners of the station where I worked went through our recurrent file, which was on reel-to-reel tape, and with a razor blade and splicing tape, cut out every Eagles and Fleetwood Mac song that the station played. So a station of that era, of that format, with no Eagles and no Fleetwood Mac.
First half your set list.
I know, it is. So you have a Peters brothers story as well.
Well, funny, and about the same time, it was 1980. I graduated from high school and I was living in downtown Anoka. And the Peters brothers came, and I believe they came to Anoka Senior High to do one of their quote-unquote seminars or rallies which was always followed by a record burning. And I got together with a group of hardcore rock and roll buddies, and we decided that we would make our presence known. So we went into the auditorium very quietly and promptly took off of our leather jackets and exposed our rock and roll Ted Nugent and AC/DC t-shirts and made a few subtle comments, and then were gently asked to leave by their, I'll call them ushers at the time.
Rock on.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, in the baby and bathwater equation of those times, remember this, kids. If you weren't there, it was a weird period of time, and so peaceful, easy feeling, and you make love and fun got thrown out right along with all the rest. And the reason that we were able to stay within our theme, by the way, and play Fleetwood Mac is because Stevie Nicks, the only time that she was married in her life, she married a guy from Minneapolis. She said hello to them when I saw Fleetwood Mac play a few years ago. And we actually have some devoted GOAT fans, and the woman of this couple is related to Stevie Nicks' ex-husband. They know him, and they get together with him. They've met Stevie many times, and they say she's delightful, and maybe I'll get a chance to meet her.
Very cool. Did not know that.
Yeah. So it's a small world after all. Now we're going to switch our theme back from, well, there's a Minnesota connection there, but that was a live track. We're going to play a studio track now, but of one of our, it's not exactly a Minnesota hero because he's from Fargo, but a guy that built his career in Minnesota. That's where you take over and talk about Johnny Lang.
Oh, of course, Johnny Lang out of Fargo. Johnny came into the Minnesota area. The story has it he played one night, I believe, at Bunkers, and was exposed to an A&R guy from, I can't remember, was it A&M Records possibly, who discovered him? Don't recall at the time.
Sure. When it was Kid Johnny Lang.
Kid Johnny Lang.
And the Big Bang.
And the Big Bang, exactly. And of course, over the years, Johnny hooked up with the legendary Bruce McCabe, keyboardist for the Hoop Snakes, one of the local Twin Cities bands.
And formerly Lamont Cranston as well.
Exactly.
If there is a local musical legend, it is Bruce McCabe.
I believe he is a member of the Minnesota Music Hall of Fame.
He should be, absolutely.
And Bruce became a keyboardist and a lyricist for much of Johnny's career.
And the band leader. You know, he was sort of the mastermind of what became Johnny Lang in that time. And I saw Johnny Lang open for the Rolling Stones. I mean, it was a big time. They toured with Aerosmith as well.
I believe I saw that concert. I want to say it was the Steel Wheels tour, and maybe at the Metrodome.
It was after Steel Wheels.
Okay, then it was Bridges Over Babylon.
I think that might have been it.
Okay, there we go. I was there as well.
And, you know, we have pretty good memories for, you know, considering being at all those concerts with all those things going on, for goodness sake.
I can't remember what happened yesterday, but I can remember what happened in 1977 at some concert pretty well.
And even though we typically don't play Johnny Lang on the GOAT, again, that music definitely descended from what we do. And this is just a great song written by Bruce McCabe. Still Raymond, Johnny Lang, on the GOAT. Oh my God, it's the Great White Buffalo. There's Ted Nugent from Double Live Gonzo. So many great double live albums from that era.
Incredible.
You know, and really, it turned the corner for a lot of people. Peter Frampton, it was Frampton Comes Alive that turned the corner. Really, it was Kiss Alive that turned the corner for them. It was Live Bullet that turned the corner for Bob Seger.
Exactly. It was just that era of time. And not only did you get the great music, but the packaging was always spectacular on the double live albums.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, I don't know this story. I'm just going to throw it out there, and there's always a net appears, I suppose. But Jeff told me that he had a great Ted Nugent story. Jeff, it's all yours.
Over the years, I've seen Ted maybe half a dozen, maybe more times, anywhere from a small venue on the Mexican border to a big venue. 1979, graduation weekend from Coon Rapids Senior High. It's Memorial Weekend. A buddy and I jump in my 74 Dodge Charger and make a beeline for Des Moines, Iowa to see one of the original Iowa Jam concerts.
Wow.
The concert featured a guy named Jay Ferguson who had a hit called Thunder Island.
Sure.
It had Nazareth, who was very big at the time. It had Head East, which also was a very big band at the time. And the headliner, of course, was Uncle Teddy. I'm 100 miles north of Des Moines. I've got a brand new old school fuzzbuster, you know, with the black dial and the big red alarm on it.
Uh-huh.
And I bet my buddy that I can get to Des Moines in less than an hour.
This is almost like Smokey and the Bandit.
Red Dodge Charger, white hardtop.
Uh-huh.
So I'm about 15 miles north of Des Moines, and I'm on schedule. I'm going to win the bet. He's buying all the drinks at the concert. I get pulled over by an entourage of Iowa State troopers who got me on the airplane on a stopwatch, checking me between the markers on the highway. They escort me to this small little town north of Des Moines. I don't know the name of the town, where they promptly strip searched me and put me in an orange jumpsuit and told me I could either pay the fine and plead guilty, or I could hang around till Tuesday, because it was Memorial Weekend, for the judge to decide what to do with me.
Gee whiz, it's already a great story, and Ted Nugent hasn't even showed up.
Well, at this point, I'm wondering if I'm going to see Ted Nugent. So we didn't have enough money to pay the bail or the bond and plead guilty. I think it was over $100. So I sent my buddy out to the corner, and it was a one-corner town, where he stood at the gas station and harassed everybody who pulled up, trying to convince them they should buy a brand new, slightly used fuzzbuster. After about 2 hours, he came back to the jail. He had found a sucker to buy the fuzzbuster, had enough money to get me out, and we got to the concert just in time as Jay Ferguson, the opening, was ending his show. We didn't have a dime left because we had to save money for gas to get us home. And this was 79, so there were gas lines, and gas was amazingly over $1 a gallon. So we were generally concerned we would get home. And some people took pity on us. We told them their story. They bought us some food and some drinks and kind of took care of us for the concert. And needless to say, on the way home, I did not go 1 mile over the speed limit. I still have a copy of the ticket.
Which helped to conserve gas.
Exactly.
How much did you have in the tank when you rolled in home?
Good question. I don't recall, but I'm sure it was nip and tuck.
Yeah, maybe a gallon, maybe. All right. We somehow found our way. And when you think back to stories like that, and I think now sometimes with, with the GPS to find where you're going and then to call and text your friends and all that, how did we even find one another at concerts? Remember that? Back in those days, it's like, find the tallest thing and stand under that until I get there.
Exactly. Or meet me between the opening band and the headliner at this location.
Mm-hmm. And you're not even sure what the location is. Find the place that sells the biggest hamburger and stand next to that. I should be there around 2 o'clock. I'm only coming from 1,000 miles away.
There you go.
That's right, and it worked. All right. Well, enough memory lane stuff. Thanks for the Ted Nugent story. We're gonna get a little more contemplative, a little bit more I don't know, tender and loving in our next set of music here on the Go Guest DJ.
If only fundraising were